Good evening, guys. Okay, so what happened was my parents' farm. For those who don't know where that is, it's in the northern Cape of South Africa, which is like semi. So to find bees there even is like a miracle to start off with. And they live in holes or under like whatever sheeting or corrugated, whatever they can find, they live under. And normally it's close to water. And the only water you find in the semi-desert areas where you find wind pumps or windmills that pump water. And that's normally where the farmers want to work. So they don't want to have bees there because it is kind of dangerous. So what happened was we had a swarm of bees that moved into close to our house under one of these petrol drums that is sawn in half. And the winter was coming on, and there was a cold front coming on with a lot of rain. And I just felt in my heart I wanted to get these bees into a nice, safe, warm home. And this actually came about because I had a series of dreams where bees would walk into my mouth and just walk on the inside and come out. And I started getting this tremendous respect for bees. This tremendous respect for bees. So I started building a beehive because we didn't have a beehive close. The closest town is about 100 k's away, and they don't have equipment. So I started building, and I started developing this love for bees. And that night when I finished the hive, I got a suit from a neighbor, and I went in and I lifted up this drum, and I started cutting out the honey. But I used the old school methods of using a smoker and all of that. And it worked. They moved in, and I actually visited them this past weekend, and they are a very strong swarm, and I'm so proud of them. So this story is going to come full circle now. What happened was I caught another 3 swarms, and I gave them proper hives actually, and I just cultivated a relationship with them. But before I caught the last 2, I went up to my father and mother-in-law, which was 2 provinces away, 2 states away, if you understand the American language. And what happened was I got there, and the bees that they had were built a nest under their bathtub, but it's in a vent. So we couldn't get to them unless we actually lifted the bath. So what I did was I used my common knowledge, which is not always the best knowledge. And I started smoking them out, and I built a funnel to funnel them out. And eventually, they all came out the funnel, couldn't find their way back in, and I smoked them out into a new hive. And that night, a storm came, and I just wanted to make sure that nothing was going to shift or move when the storm came, because my heart was for the bees. And what happened was I just felt everything was tight, and there was a dead bee with a sting sticking out, which I couldn't see, and it just nipped my finger. And 15 minutes after that, they had to rush me to almost hospital. We got to the pharmacist, and they had to give me a double dose of the strong medicine. That is the doctor prescribed stuff. Before that I was stung, but I wasn't actually allergic like that. And I got the medicine, and after I got home and I felt better, and my family wasn't scared anymore because I looked like a puppet or a lion or whatever. I was swollen, and it was just weird. I was standing under the shower, just having a cold shower, just to get my body to calm down. And God said to me, because you opened up a door, because you worked unrighteously with nature, you allowed the enemy to go at you with an attempt on your life. And while I was getting that, my mother-in-law was standing in the kitchen, and God told her, He just gave me an EpiPen. And an EpiPen is epinephrine, which is basically like an adrenaline shot to keep you alive. And I was just like, whoa. And God told me, when you start to move in higher relationship with nature and people, you have to work with them with more authority, but also more responsibility comes with that, because you've got more power. So I came back to the farm. I caught another 2 swarms. And what happened then was I didn't use a smoker anymore, because God told me it's not righteous. So what I did was I went to the site beforehand. I would prepare everything, and I would stand before the father, and I would tell him, Papa, I come to you today to get an eviction order for where the bees are living. It's not a good home for them. I want to give them a better home. I want to make them safe, because the farmers are going to destroy them. I honor your creation. I want to honor them. But I want you to help me to do this the right way. And it was during like a thunderstorm picking up in the area. That's not the right time to either ride horses or to farm bees. And they're usually very aggressive then. And I lifted up this petrol drum as well. And I started cutting out the cakes. And I cut out the first one, put it in the new hive. As I cut out the second one, the queen presented herself to me. And I was like, wow, it's so difficult to find the queen between the wild bees. And she was just like there, and I knew when she got into the hive, the rest of the bees will follow. And the second hive, in that week, I did the same thing happened. I did the same, I followed the same principle, honored the bees, and the queen presented herself on the second cake. And I was like, wow, Father, this is so amazing. And during that time, I was back in Cape Town, and I started having dreams about the bees. The one dream was the queen came to fetch me. She took me by the finger and led me to the hive. And she showed me how the hive was burning. And I was like, whoa, what does this mean? The other one, in the other two dreams, I got to the one hive and I saw that an animal was digging out a hole underneath the structure of the hive and it was going to fall over. And the other one, I saw that one was climbing into it to destroy it. So when I got to the farm eventually a few months later, I came to the one hive. The sun was burning it. The paint was peeling off the side, and I understood that we had to move the hive to a shady area. The other hive, it was actually eroding away underneath, and I had to fix the structure under there. And when I got to the hive that was being destroyed on the inside, I saw that moths actually moved in and started spinning webs to catch the bees and destroyed them. And I was like, wow, creation was one with me because my heart, cardiogenesis with nature, we were becoming one with creation through the Father. And I was just, it is so amazing that when you honor something and love it so much, even if it's an insect, that we can have. And I started getting an understanding of how Adam could govern all of creation from one place because he was so in love with creation that he could govern it from anywhere. He was always in touch with it. So this weekend we went back, and I was curious to see how the honey was coming along and all of that, because eventually you want to see your first fruits of your harvest. So I went to the hive and I saw that all the bees were still there. A year and a half later, they were doing well. And a storm was also brewing this weekend. So it's actually funny how that works. And it's not the right time to open up a beehive. And it was actually very cold. But I just wanted to have a peek. So I lifted the lid. And as I lifted, the bees just came out. But beforehand, I was talking to the Father. I was saying, I want to honor them. I want to, all of that. So my intent was still there. But what I didn't realize was I actually matured in the meanwhile. I moved up another level. So my discernment had to be more sharp. My authority and my power was more. And they also recognized that. And they actually were telling me, Guy, don't open up the lid. It's cold. So while that was happening, I was wearing my equipment. Obviously no smokers. So I'm not going to calm them down the conventional way. The suit, the screen bent to the point where it was actually touching my nose. And the one bee came and it went, and it stung me on the nose. And in that moment, I realized, if I'm allergic still, like I was a year and a half ago, then we are in big trouble. Because the closest town is about 100 k's away. And it's not necessarily even a doctor on that town. So it's a rural area. And I started stepping into the presence of Jesus. And I said, I come before you because you were slain for me for the payment for everything, spirit, soul, and body. And I just started communing with him, taking his body and his blood, and just taking his body and his blood. While I was closing the lid, trying not to kill any more bees, I was just standing there. Now it's in the veld, it's away from the house. And the bees were still swarming around me, and I had to spend a certain amount of time away from the house because the dogs were close by and they will get stung as well. So it took me about half an hour, double the time it took me last time before I reached the pharmacist. And I can stand before you today and you can see that my nose is pretty much a normal size, almost. And I did not die. And I did not swell up. And I was just so thankful for Jesus, for the fact that we could step into his presence and take part of who he is so that our body can come into alignment with who he is. So I am healed today, where a year and a half ago I was not. I was allergic to bees. So I stand here, and this is a small testimony for some people, but for me it's a massive, massive victory. And I want to rejoice in that. And I want to I want to shout it from the rooftop. So Jesus, thank you. Thank you, Jesus, for who you are and what you've done for me. And that I can rejoice in your miracles and in your relationship. And that I can stand before you today and I can just proclaim that you are good and that we can come before you. So with this comes discernment as well. And God just told me, Papa just said, boy, you didn't have discernment. That's why it stung you on the nose. The nose represents a lot of discernment. We need to be able to discern the flavors, the frequencies, the atmosphere. So I learned a lesson that next time when I visit creation, which I have a relationship with, I need to understand where I'm at and position myself from that position before I commune with creation. So that's my bit. Thank you.